Wow. Good evening, everyone. It's great to be here. We're going to start the evening with just a couple of questions. No, we're not. We actually would like to know from yourself, because obviously I haven't met all of you here tonight. My objective is to find out from some of you the reason you're here tonight. What brought you here tonight, other than the amazing food that we're enjoying and the great hospitality? But I'm going to ask my friend Julie. Thank you, Julie. So just 4 or 5 people, 3 men, 3 women, why you've come here tonight. All of us would like to know, in particular me. Can you make it short, 1 minute each per person? So who's going to kick us off? Oh, here we go, this gentleman right here. No mucking around, off the bull out of the gate. Thank you. Tell us what you're here for. Give us your first name.
My name's Albert, and the reason why we came along tonight was to find out a bit about the program that exists in Newcastle, because I think there's a need for it here in Redcliffe. You often see in the paper how some of these people who actually live in their cars are moved on because of the factors that they're in these areas where they aren't allowed legally. So it would be good to see how things have actually happened in Newcastle, to see whether or not we couldn't actually replicate that sort of system here. So that's the reason why we're here tonight.
And what was your name, sir?
Albert.
Thank you, Albert. Thank you. Let's give Albert a big hand. Someone right at the back there, lovely lady, right at the back. Thank you.
Thank you. Tony Stewart from Redcliffe Rotary Sunrise. We're particularly interested in our Rotary Club with making partnerships and connections with other organisations on the peninsula and also with local businesses. We have a partnership with Woolworths, and we have been taking week-old magazines to Orange Sky each Wednesday, where the Breakfast Club supplies breakfast, and we're now investigating the possibilities of food drops and creating those types of partnership. As the president of the club, I have a particular interest in facilitating more effective connections with the homeless in our local area and making the actual area on the peninsula safe and inclusive for them.
Thank you very much for coming. Thank you, Rotary. Thank you, Julie.
Hello. Hi, my name's Wendy. I've been on the street for 7 years. I'm homeless. And I'm here on behalf of the Breakfast Club and all the homeless people. Hi, everybody.
Hi, Wendy.
Hi. And what a great idea is it? By the way, I had a great meal. But yeah, I'd like to hear what you say about what's happening with the homeless, and all my friends on the street want to hear what you say as well.
Thank you, very kind of you. Great to have you here. Welcome. There's a lady at the front here. A bit of running and sort of meandering, weaving through the tables here. Good job, Julie.
Good evening, Peter. Thanks so much for coming. My name's Kerry Ann Dooley, and I've been volunteering with Tuckerbox Ministries with Pastor Cam since they started last year. And I'm here because we want to be a part of the change. I believe in Redcliffe, and I believe that we can implement something like you have, Peter, and with all levels of government, council and state government working together. And very keen to hear what you've got to say, because I believe we can do that here in Redcliffe. So thanks for coming.
Thank you very much. A gentleman, can we have a guy that otherwise we'll choose you out. We need a gentleman, obviously a lady, and then another, and then we're going to close off with a gentleman. We need a bloke to tell us why they're here tonight.
Hi.
Hi, my name's Nadine. I'm the manager at Redcliffe Probation and Parole, and the reason that we're here is we really want to be invested in the community. We have around 535 people on coming to probation and parole, and a lot of those people do struggle with homelessness, so we really want to support those people, try and get back on track and really reintegrate into the community as best that we can. So it'd be great to get as much information as we can to really help our clients. So that's why we're here.
Fantastic. Thank you for coming. Who's our lucky last gentleman to put up their hand? What about this gentleman right here? Sir, could you just tell us why you're here tonight? Sir, you with your napkin, could you tell us why you've come tonight?
Yeah, hi, Craig from Redcliffe. What a wonderful thing to be involved in the past 5 years or so. The homeless condition is very little of it is understood by rank and file people out there. A number of factors go into the homeless condition. The homeless condition can be permanent, semi-permanent, temporary, short-term. I've got to say, there's a lot of organisations out there doing marvellous work. Breakfast Club, peak among them. The ministries, Rotary. I would love to see a coordinated approach. Lots of people seem to be doing lots of the same things. I'd love to see everybody talk to each other and coordinate this thing, and it would be so much more effective.
What's your name, sir?
Craig, unless something goes wrong.
Thank you for sharing, Craig. That was awesome. That's a great segue to what I'm talking about tonight. Fantastic. That's an awesome segue. I'm going to just, I'm not very technical, but I'm going to do my best with this, these technical gadgets here. I'm Italian, Sicilian actually. They're the sort of the naughty people down in south, and they get up to all the mischief. But what you just shared, sir, was fantastic, because it's going to lead into pretty much what I want to talk about today. Today has been an awesome day. Has been fantastic. I was up at 4 o'clock this morning. I'm still pumped. I'm raging. I've got the lemon lime bitters, flowing through the system. I've been up to the crack of dawn. I've met with council. I've been on 4BC. I'm talking here tonight. Stuff happening tomorrow. But what's really exciting, Roz, you're making a difference. Michelle, you're making a difference. Helen, you're making a difference. All of you want. Let's give it up for these lovely ladies and the team. They're making a massive difference. I've been knocking on doors for 3 years. I've been involved in this program from the very beginning, but I've been on knocking on doors in Newcastle for 3 years. I've been on radio, on TV, not TV, but on newspapers, whatever, telling people about this program. This is not rocket science, what I'm about to share with you tonight. This is a really simple program that, sir, like you just explained, it just requires the collaboration of people coming together. And I know there's meetings maybe happening soon. And I would love to see those people that are being challenged tonight to come behind Roz and her leadership and just form together a collective, an interagency or interested group of people, so that not everyone does their own little thing, which is fantastic, it's great. But if you can work together, could you imagine the power of all the numbers of people here tonight working together to tackle the homeless crisis that you have in this community? Queensland has 19,831 homeless people when the statistics came out in 2012, and 8% of those people are rough sleepers. So about 1,550 people are the people that we're talking about here tonight. So the first slide I want to show is this one over here. My lovely wife couldn't make it here today. Her name is Jenny. We've been married 26 years on Wednesday. I'm a foster carer. I'm 52 years of age. And I'm passionate about two things. I'm passionate about the homeless sector. I'm also passionate about giving children who have been orphaned or, stuff going on in their life somewhere safe to live as well. So my passion is around, obviously, the social welfare area. And down the bottom here, this lovely picture, if you can't see it, we're all dressed in orange. We have an event every year called the Hunter Homeless Connect Day. And what this gentleman, sir, what was your name again? Craig, yes. Now what Craig said was fantastic, because Hunter Homeless Connect Day initially was like a mixed bag of a whole bunch of different people doing their own thing. And then sometime in 2009, someone decided, you know what? Let's all just get together and work together as a team for a change instead of everyone trying to do their own thing. And the last one that I was involved in, which was on the 25th of July, I'm actually on the board of management with the Hunter Homeless Connect Committee. We assisted in a 6-hour period 960 homeless guests, just like you, Wendy. And we had 96 service providers, government and non-government sector, that gave of their time. The local TAFE hairdressers cut 200 heads of hair. We had OPSM dispense 90 sets of eyewear in that day. And we fed so many people, and at the end of it, it's just an amazing day where we just wanted to love on and make our homeless sector feel so special. So that's something that we did in Newcastle. That's not the Our Backyard project, but that's part of what we're doing when we all get together. We can make a massive difference. I was going to wear my Blues jersey, but someone said, you'll be crucified, mate, if you were. So I thought I'd better do something to do about sport. The Newcastle Knights, obviously, we didn't make the finals this year. We have one thing in common. Your coach of the Brisbane Broncos used to be our coach. Didn't do us any good either, so that's something we have in common. And we got ripped off at the grand final, thank you, the VAR system. We would have won that game against the Melbourne Victory. And this is the beautiful aerial view here of Newcastle, if you don't know where we're at. We are the Hunter region of 500,000 people altogether. And it's a great place to live. You've obviously got a fantastic area here where you're living as well. So I just wanted to show you, there's a little bit of synergy there between Redcliffe and obviously this peninsula area, the Moreton Bay area, and our community of Newcastle. We're going to go through pretty quickly because I don't want to bore you too much, but what I really want to do at the end of tonight is ask questions. I want you to ask questions. No question's a bad question. Someone here tonight's going to write those questions down, so if I can't answer the question for you, okay, so if I can't convince you, I might try to confuse you with an answer. So the whole idea is obviously to give you some information that you can take home. There's a bloke called Simon Sinek. He does a lot of things around TED Talks. And I wanted to ask myself this question. Why do we exist? What's the point of all this thing? And why are we doing what we're doing? And I felt that in Australia, no one deserves to be homeless was a pretty good reason why we do the Our Backyard project. No one in Australia deserves to be homeless. A lot of the guests that I look after are Aboriginal men and women, and I think it's a travesty that these men and women should be homeless even in a country that obviously founded by their forefathers and elders in the community. And the other thing was having somewhere that is safe, secure and stable to sleep at night is a basic human right. Now, I don't go into meetings with key stakeholders and start throwing stones. That's not my role. What I try to do is do the best I can with the resources that I have and obviously the spheres of influence that I have to be able to come up with solutions. We talked about this word solutions. So at the end of tonight, I would like us to come up with a solution, if possible. Talking amongst each other, contacting the various groups, maybe making reference to local members of government, state and federal if need be. Because I think collectively we are empowered, we have enough. I'm just at my table here alone talking to these wonderful people, some amazing ideas on what we can do to make a difference. So I want to encourage you to do that. Let me just share a little bit about our program. Now, I do apologise, no one at the back is going to be able to see any of this, so I'm just going to read it out to you. Our Backyard is a private car park space in Lake Macquarie, which is a place where homeless people can connect and start their journey out of homelessness. So let me just stop there. It's a place where people can connect and start the journey out of homelessness. We are not a refuge. We are not going to provide some great answers around accommodation, but we're simply a place where people can connect and start the journey out of homelessness. When this project started 4 years ago by a women's refuge, there was some funding from the government, and at the time Rosie Batty was the Australian of the Year, and there was a lot of discussion around domestic family violence, and we needed a safe place for women and children to be able to sleep at night. And so with some government funding, we developed this program called the Our Backyard program. At the time, I was the security guard for the Women and Children's program that was meeting on the day. So that's how long I've been involved with this program. I've been employed by Macquarie Care for the last 2.5 years, but originally it was specifically for women and children escaping domestic family violence. After the funding ran out after a year, as it usually happens, then another group, a youth sort of agency, picked up the slack, and then it became women and children and also youth. And then after another year, running again on the same sort of program, they ran out of money, and Macquarie Care, the organisation that employs me, has basically opened it up, women and children, families and men as well. So the bulk of our people now are actually men, and the reason for that is that in Newcastle there are 6 women's refuges and only 1 men's refuge. So therefore there's a shortfall in the area of men's services that can access this program. We give guests 4 weeks to stay on the site on the proviso that they seek to link with other support agencies and including the Department of Housing. Now, New South Wales has a policy in state government where they give homeless people up to 28 days temporary accommodation, which I believe doesn't happen here in Queensland, which is something that maybe can be worked out. But obviously other people who are at the state government level can look after those things. But what that means is if a person is homeless, they ring a toll-free number and they're given a motel that they can go to for the night, and they basically have 2 nights to stay in a motel, and then after that they report to the Department of Housing, and they obviously give reasons why they're homeless and on and so forth. So if a person was homeless tonight, 14th of September, they were given 2 days accommodation over the weekend. They report on Monday, they fill out some paperwork, they go through some hoops and provide information to the department, and then they're given another 2 days, up to 28 days. After that, they're kind of they're in limbo. Things become really difficult, and so therefore they come to our program. So we give 4 weeks. The reason we do 4 weeks is usually that's every fortnight. Most of our guests are receiving some form of benefit from Centrelink, and we find that the first time they arrive, they're flat broke anyway, and so it gives them a bit of time to sort of get their feet off the ground. All the services are provided freely. All guests must be have a registered motor vehicle to access the program. So you might have questions about that later on. Feel free to ask them why we only have cars on site. That's a really good question that you can ask. Sorry about that picture. That's Dave on the left. I didn't take the photo. One of the newspaper photographers took the photo. And there's Patricia with her King Charles Cavalier. The first time she came on site, that thing nearly bit my leg off. Crazy little Cav. Anyway, so Patricia's there with the crazy Cav, and this woman has some severe mental health issues. She had her own property in Department of Housing, but there were some neighbours that were causing her some level of distress, so she felt more safe being in the car with her pet dog and sleeping in her car at night. And so this is part of the big crisis that we've had. We've had discussion here around mental health. It's a massive issue with the homeless people. Either you don't have any mental health issues, but within 4 or 5 weeks, you'll eventually develop some mental health distress as a result of being homeless. So that's Patricia and her dog. Those photos are taken by the Newcastle Herald. And Dave, sorry, you can't see Dave's dog. He's just completely in the dark. There's better pictures here that'll show you what the car park looks like. There it is. Okay, so top left-hand corner, the car park is about 2/3 the size of a football field, but we really have only the capacity, because of the amenities block that we're actually working with, to probably accommodate maximum 10 people a night. And you'll see that in a moment when you see some photos of the kitchen. We appreciate Bunnings. They're putting up a shade sail over there. The lady from Rotary was mentioning Rotary. We are indebted to Rotary, who's actually supplied and installed a massive deck area. They've provided the paint, they've put in the fencing, and even some of the plants, just to make the place look a little bit more user-friendly. So Bunnings is one of our supporters. That deck area there, sorry again, top left-hand corner, it's just green, that's a deck area. We just sit there, and just below that there's the guys sit down and have a cigarette. So there's a smoking area there for them, and they just, and also we have a washing machine, and they can use the clothesline if they need to have their, obviously they want somewhere to keep their clothes dry. We've got a well-stocked pantry. The other day, I love Facebook. How good's Facebook? Love it. It's free, it's beautiful, it's great. Anyway, one day I thought, you know what, I can't be bothered. I was a bit sort of selfish. No one here's from Newcastle, great, I'll just tell you the truth then. I thought, I can't be bothered going to Coles and buying all these items, you know. I'm thinking, people always want to donate something. Not everyone wants to donate money. So I put the call out there, said, listen, ladies and gentlemen, we've got 10 people on site tonight. We've got 7 men, 3 women, and a dog, all right? We need dog food, we need non-perishable items, we need sui min, you know, things that you can sort of throw some water in, you know, just make it simple. And I thought, oh yeah, whatever, I'm sure someone will read it. You know, be like, within days, I kid you not, there are like packet loads and shopping bag container full of all these perishable items. Now our storage area is pretty much this little area here. So it's all chock-a-block full of the non-perishable items. We're absolutely full to the brim. So it's amazing the power of social media, how amazing it is to be able to get the message across. On that night, I know there was a lady there, corrective services lady, give me a wave. Awesome. On that night, of the 10 people, it was just an interesting situation. We had 2 former inmates from Her Majesty's Service who were now homeless, and there was a former prison officer. Now, what an interesting dynamic little conversations they were having around the coffee table. And what was really interesting, this is really, because obviously I know some things, but I don't know everything, right? And you're laughing because you don't know what I'm talking about here. Anyway, so these 2 inmates, okay, having this conversation with a prison officer. One of them, unfortunately, unbeknownst to me, because corrective services didn't disclose, thank you very much, that this guy had done 20 years in jail, plus another 10 years in a mental institution, and they've presented to me with, the guy's just done 3 months jail for a bit of malicious damage, which isn't the truth, right? It wasn't the truth. And so this guy's causing a few problems for me on the site, but the prison officer guy was able to sort of, win him around a bit. So I thought that was pretty good. Within themselves, they were working things out. That's pretty great. And then I was talking to them, trying to find a bit of information, what sort of make things happen. Because people often ask me, like, what's the security like on the property? Like, how do you maintain the safety of all the guests? Well, the answer is I can't have eyes in the back of my head. I haven't got surveillance cameras and drones, helicopters, policing the place. It's not a prison place, So it's a car park in the open air and a couple of demountable buildings. And Gary, who was in the newspaper recently, said, "Pete," he goes, "we've got the code, mate. The code." I said, "Gary, what's the code?" He goes, "In jail, we've got a code. I have never been in jail, but if you've been there is a code, okay? Whatever the code is," he goes, "and when we're in this circumstance here where we know you're helping us out, there's a code, mate. We stick to the rules. We don't rip off the system. We don't bite the hand that feeds us." So that was good. The code was there. They were working amongst themselves. They left me alone to deal with the dog and the 3 women and everything else that was going on. Well-stocked pantry, and never looks that good because I'm really bad at being organised. The refrigerator, the microwave and the urn. Let me first put this project together. What we wanted to do was basically keep it really, really simple. Somewhere that you've been sleeping rough for a few nights. What's the first thing you want to do? You just want to have a shower, okay? Dry towel, toiletries, hot shower, not cold shower from the beach, hot shower, some toast, a cup of coffee, have a bit of a kip. One of the benefits of our program is this. Now I've been up since 4 o'clock in the morning. Could you imagine if you've only had 3 or 4 hours sleep, not just one night, not just 2 nights, but for a week or a month, okay? You're going to be hyper vigilant. So what my guests tell me is that the fact that they can just crash out at night and have the best night's sleep ever in our program is like thumbs up. Because when you are homeless and you have the chance to completely shut down and have a good night's sleep, the next day you're feeling a lot better. So these are basic human needs that we all have, and a lot of things that we might take for granted, but people who are doing it tough really appreciate what we're doing. Helen, please give me the xylophone ding when I've gone over 30 minutes, okay? Thank you, because my stopwatch is not even here. Okay, sorry about the picture. There's Patricia there. Look how tight it is. There's a table in the middle. That's Victor. Victor got referred to us from Muswellbrook, which is 100 kilometres away. And Patricia with her dog, the crazy Cavalier King Charles. After a month, I was able to actually pat her without getting growled at. But what happens here is the guests access the property at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. They ring a mobile number, they talk to myself or one of my team, we provide an intake service for them, we ask them a series of questions, okay, and then we basically show them the whole running of the program. And but because of all the generosity of the public, obviously that place is always well stocked. Sometimes our guests want to start cleaning things up, which is great, not a problem, but sometimes what can happen is that it leads to ownership, and that becomes other problems where they feel that they own the place, and that makes it very difficult. But that's the kitchen area. It's very, very small. See, it's not that big at all. That's why 10 people maximum. Oh, okay. 10 people is the maximum that we can really help. Anthony and Cindy. I started on the 10th of June 2016. These people turned up on the 13th of June 2016. That hall to the left is an old hall. We use that for what's called Community Connect. Community Connect is every Tuesday where we might put on a meal. The local Brazilian restaurant comes with their food truck. So we have Brazilian food, which is quite expensive if you had to go to a restaurant, but they come out and do the food for us. We've had Community Haircut Project come out as well, who cut hair. We're going to have Centrelink come out and talk to our guests. But these guys here, they're long-term homeless people. But whilst they've been staying with us, they've been kept safe. And that's pretty important. And they're just showing a photo there of obviously they're getting ready to set up for the night. They're putting on a tarpaulin and ensuring that they're going to have their car insulated. This is Cameron. Cameron came from Queensland wearing a Melbourne t-shirt. One of the guys actually, Cameron's a funny bloke. He used to run in circuses, he used to run all those entertainment like the amusement park things, but because of a relationship breakdown, he became homeless, he lost all his money. On the very first day that he turned up, we had the Herald coming in wanting to do a story. I said, "Hey mate, can you come and be the person?" I didn't know him from a bar of soap. I said, "Can you come and do a story for us?" And he was really keen. And anyway, do you know the name Jared Mullins? He used to play halfback for Newcastle Knights. Anyway, he's one of the part owners of the meat truck. So when he came along, and because he's a football fan, they all sort of swapped football stories, and it was just a great opportunity for these guys to also get engaged with other members of the community. So that's our Tuesday night event. Now, why does this program exist? I've just mentioned that in New South Wales, there's 28 days where we get temporary accommodation. After that, you're on your own. And I mean that literally. You're basically on your own. You're sleeping where we have a lot of bushland areas, so people are just parked in bushland and they're just keeping themselves isolated. So that's pretty challenging for them. There are limited refuges, especially for men. We only have one. So 70% of the people we help are men and 30% are women. And we're a service that basically refers very quickly as we can. So if women and children turn up, I'm on the phone to the manager of the women's service, quick, smart, and because they know me pretty well, they'll do everything they can to help that family out of crisis. There's no emergency support for men and women. So obviously there's support for women's services or men's services, but if a male has a female partner and she's his carer, then tough luck for them. They're going to be basically homeless. There's no refuge support for them. There's a really low vacancy rate, and if you're on $254 a week for New Start, you're stuffed. There's pretty much nowhere where you're going to have to buy rent, to pay for rent, and there's also a very long public housing waiting list. So these are the reasons why we exist, and plus the reason that I said before, no one should be homeless in our community. So our backyard gives a homeless person somewhere safer to sleep at night without being moved or harassed, which generally happens when you are homeless and sleeping by the side of the road. People are trying to harass you, they're knocking on the door. Some young people might want to harm you or cause you grief, and so we provide them with a safer option. I don't think I mentioned this, but the private car park space is located on the back of a private church site in the suburb of Cardiff. Okay, so that's where we're located, and when I spoke to the council today, I mentioned that we are actually a private location, so that makes things a little bit easier. We have obviously gone through the process of complying to zoning regulations, etc., which I'll talk about in a moment. So guests can access the hot shower, the private bathroom, and it just makes them feel really good. Nothing like a hot shower in the morning, getting ready for work. You know, things that we would take for granted. Why not our homeless people, our homeless guests? On the plus side, I have KPIs, key performance indicators. In order for me to keep my job, we need to have a 25% success rate. 1 in 4 of the people I'm working with are transitioning into secure, safe and stable accommodation. We usually have about 10 people there's usually 10 people a month that come to our services, and we're tracking this year roughly 120 new people a year will use our services. And we also give the opportunity for students to have their workplace with the Our Backyard program. At the moment, I have 25 volunteers. We use the WhatsApp to sort of communicate with each other, or private messenger. And really, we're only limited by the size of our amenities block. So if we had a bigger amenities block, at the moment we hire these facilities and we plumb them into that old hall there I showed you a moment ago. We're on the downward stretch, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, this is the part I love. I love nothing more than us working together as a community. This is a great community project, a night under the stars. We had it here, we had it in April. We showed the Lion King. We used the My Cause portal, and we raised just under $20,000 by having 30 people sleep in their car at night, rough, including our wonderful Mayor, Kay Fraser, who who got out of her business's suit attire and put on a pair of sloppy joes and sort of, just roughed it up with the rest of us. We had a band there that night. And the great thing was that everyone got together and we did something for the very first time. And it was just, raising 20 grand was pretty easy on that particular night. And we've got support not just from the local mayor, but also independent councillor John Gilbert and MP for Charlestown, a lady called Jodie Harrison. So the next photo here shows us all happy as, happy the day. That's the day after the night before. That didn't happen that was the next day. Pretty happy after our breakfast there. So that's us there, just having a bit of a photo moment. Now this is the one that I want to focus on just a little bit. You can see yourselves up there. I consider you a part of my family now. And Helen shared a story with me today that was very, very encouraging in relation to the fact that you've obviously seen what we've been doing on the social media. The collaboration is really important. It's about working together, and we've got Rotary there. They helped to build a deck. Tomago Aluminium gave us $11,000 from the out of pay scheme for their employees, where they put in $2 each, and the management chucked in another $2, and so that was very that's been very effective for us. We've got Orange Sky, Oz Harvest, and a few others as well. That's the Orange Sky team, and you probably know yourselves, Nick Marchese and Luke Patchett. They were Young Australians of the Year in 2016, and then from your local community. And we were the first project in Newcastle that had Orange Sky come and do work for us. So we love Orange Sky, and some of our guests are actually hanging around those areas there. This program works because of the tremendous support that we have from the community. We've got policies and procedures. We get referrals from social workers in hospitals, from corrective services. Just down the road from us is a Cardiff probation officer. Some of the people who are homeless, who have been former inmates or in parole, they actually would report down there. Pretty much across the board we get support and people refer to us. But we are an acute crisis service, and then we refer to housing providers. We've also had risk management and insurance by our insurance broker. We've got policies and procedures in place. So we've done the whole gamut of thing. 25 volunteers and about 1,500 people that follow us through social media. We get corporate and private donors, and we are DGR status and fully tax deductible. I want to finish with this story from Leah's story. I want to finish with this story. Okay, why did I get involved in this program? Back in 2010, I was working for another community group, and I was working with a lady called Leah. And anyway, Leah was telling me the story. And I said, "Oh, tell me your story, Leah." She goes, "Look, one day I went guarantor for my sister. She wanted $30,000. I'm her sister, older sister. I went guarantor for my sister, and unfortunately, she defaulted, and as a result of defaulting, the bank came after me. And when the bank came after me, they wanted obviously their money back, and I had to sell everything I had, and all I was left with was my Mazda 323. So I took my Mazda 323, and on this particular night, I didn't know what to do, and so I did what other homeless people did, and I went and parked by the side of the road at the Hexham truck stop, and I just stayed there the night. And during the middle of the night, there was a tap on the door, or actually there wasn't a tap on the door. Someone, motioned her to come out of the car, and it was a truck driver. And on that night, she was sexually assaulted. And she shared her story with me. And at the time, there was a group. There's an award called the Still Magnolia Award, and I nominated Leah for that award, and she was a finalist. But what dawned on me very, very strongly was that it's not okay It's definitely not okay that this happens to not just women but men and anybody, and we need to do something about this. And I'm a pioneer of all sorts of social injustice out there, so I'm going to make it I'm going to do what I can to make sure that this happens. And I asked questions, and we went to websites to look around, and there's a program like this in Santa Monica Beach in California where people are sleeping in their cars. And we asked a few other people, and we got together, and after about 6 to 12 months, we approached this church and we said to them, would you be willing to put this as a pilot project? And they said, no way, it's too dangerous. What's the risk to us? And anyway, all on it went, and just slowly we just chipped away until we finally jumped over every every barrier to get to the point where we finally got the Our Backyard kicked off with this women's service, East Lakes Women and Children's Service, in July of 2014. So because of Leah, that's why we have the Our Backyard program. I want to say thank you to everyone here today, especially for the Redcliffe Breakfast Club for inviting me here this evening and today. It's been a fantastic day. Facebook, thank you Mark Zuckerberg for inventing Facebook and giving us the opportunity to talk to so many people. And I would like to ask if anyone has any questions. I know that I've spoken for quite some time, and I do apologise if I've bored you, but I would like to hear some questions from the crowd tonight, from the audience. If you've got any questions, I would do my best to answer them for you now. Any questions at all? Oh, okay. Hang on.
Peter, you said you get these people there into the place where they can stay the night, and you said you had that bit of trouble with those two prisoners and the parole officer. What would have happened if that got out of hand? Like, what sort of strategies do you have in place to, if people misbehave?
Yeah.
Things like that.
Yeah, that's a very good question. The problem we have is that it's not the project is not foolproof. We don't have security overnight. We don't have cameras. So after I leave at 6 p.m. at night, between 6 p.m. at night and 10 o'clock the next morning when they have to exit the site, it's pretty much left to their own devices. Okay, so that's a risk that we take. And had it gone out of hand, someone else would have contacted me at midnight, and I would have probably called the cops to investigate, and I would have headed down there myself. Yeah.
Just continuing on from Albert, how much? First of all, how much trouble do you have if there is trouble?
Sure, that's a good question. When you say trouble, can you elaborate, please?
Yeah. Well, I'll just give you an example. In my 15 years with Breakfast Club, I can probably name only 2 occasions where I've had any sort of difficulty with dealing with the fairly desperate situations, and often people who are often very, very unwell mentally, and this was the 2 occasions, and that's been in 15 years. So I'm interested in your experience, Peter.
Probably three incidences in 2.5 years since I've been there where I've had to contact the police. 3 incidences, and it's because it's a private car parking space, and we've asked people to move on. And if they don't follow the directive to move on, we ring the police and say these people are now trespassing on private property, so they've broken the law, and then the police will move them on. But it usually happens around alcohol consumption, which is not allowed, and around generally if there's a couple on site and they argue with each other and there's alcohol involved, there's generally bound to be a problem, and we'll have to ask those people to move on. So usually the problems are within themselves, so it's not one person randomly having a problem with another person. Yeah, does that help? Yeah. There's a question just over here. Sorry.
So my question is, with the site, has it got a locked gate on it, so can other people come in and out at night, or is it just you've got a certain number of people who can come in and spend the night, and then the gate's shut when you go? So can they come and go, or can other people come in?
Yeah, good question. So what we try to do is we try to obviously give some responsibility to our guests. We don't have a gate, so the bottom of the hill is just an open car park. So, it's an open driveway, and we don't tell anyone the location. So we never tell anyone where the location is until they actually contact our mobile number. Then we specifically ask questions. Then we tell them where to find us, and then we meet them there. But they are free to go at any time. But people don't generally come up there unless they want to do donuts, because it's a nice gravel car park, great gravel car park for chucking donuts, in the middle of the night. But generally they don't if there's cars there, you know what I mean? So people obviously know the church. It's been there for 25 years, the location. But you've got to go up to the top of the hill and chuck a left at the electricity towers and right round the corner. So the car park at the front is fully tarred, but this area is actually not tarred. It's just gravelled. And those guests can leave after they've checked in at 4 o'clock with a text message. They can leave and do what they like, but they've got to be back before dark, which is around about 8 p.m. in the night. And if they don't, I will follow them up the next day. So I have to be diligent in basically keeping in touch with our people. They're not just free to come and go as they wish. It's part of a program.
Okay, yeah. So it's sort of like a contract that they agree that they're going to partake in this and follow your rules.
Correct.
Yep, that's good.
Yeah,
so, sorry, another question.
Sure.
In regards to they need to ring a mobile number to book in. To check in to see if they can come in and be part of the program.
Yep.
How does that then not get to be just word of mouth out with everybody ringing you all at once?
Okay.
So how do you not end up with 50 people wanting to come and spend the night?
All the service providers know our phone number, and we basically educate them not to give the number out to whoever they see fit, because it's obviously a part of a relationship that we've built over a long period of time. But what we don't want is people just inviting their friends on the car park. That can happen at this stage after 4.5 years. We're tracking pretty well, but it's going to be a time, obviously, where all hell will break loose. I'm sure that's going to happen at some point. Maybe we'll just take 2 more questions after this one, because it's nearly 9 o'clock.
G'day mate, how you going?
G'day mate, good.
I just want to know how you vet the situation with people coming in, because in New South Wales 17% of the people that are homeless have chosen to be homeless. How do you make a decision on who stays at your accommodation and who doesn't?
Where does the 17% come in, just out of interest?
I was watching SBS during the week, and they said that 17% are homeless. That's at the bottom end of the young people that are homeless at the moment. Actually choose to be homeless themselves.
Good question. We don't discriminate on anyone. So whoever presents, and we don't check up their records to say if they were homeless last night. We just have to take it on face value. But they have to engage with a financial counsellor during that 30-day period that they're there. So there's some rules, there's some conditions for them to stay there. It's not just freeloading for 30 days like a camping site. We usually weed out those that are just travelling through and just camping and looking for a place to camp, because obviously a campsite's about $30 a night, and they don't want to pay $30 a night, so they just come and freeload with us. But because it's referral, the people that are going to be referring to us are through service, so social workers or youth refuges or Department of Housing themselves. So yeah, you are correct. There are people that just don't want to obviously engage, but we usually weed them out fairly quickly. How'd we go up the back there anyway with our... Oh, lovely.
How you going?
G'day, good.
This is for the friends on the street want to know, because a lot of are not junkies or alcoholics, they're just normal people. They want to know how safe it is, and also backpackers come in too. They just make out they're Australians and they come in. So how do you stop them?
They need a registered motor vehicle. So if a backpacker has a registered motor vehicle, then obviously we're not going to discriminate against them. And what was your first question, please?
A lot of people on the streets don't want to associate with junkies or alcoholics.
Okay.
They're afraid of them.
Yep.
And if you go into a sort of place like that, you're going to attract those sort of people.
Absolutely, correct. Spot on. We're going to attract all sorts of people who are in distress, including those who have got substance abuse issues and gambling addictions and whatever. Our job is not to judge them. Our role is simply to provide a safer than sleeping out on the streets. So that's what we're about. We're not about providing guaranteeing safety. We ask them to sign a disclaimer when they come in. And I say things like, if the tree falls from the sky and hits your car and smashes it up, that's an act of God. That's not my fault. You can't sue me for that. You're here on your own, here as a volunteer. I'm not forcing you to be here. And you can certainly leave any time you like. There's the car park entrance, off you go. So that's where the kind of thing is different. We're obviously going to get people who are going to abuse the system. Any community services has to face that. That's the way life is, and we just deal with it. But we mitigate that because we've got policies and procedures to basically help us to navigate through those challenges. Yeah. Craig, Craig, is that right? Yeah, you're the last question, mate, because it's 9 o'clock.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Just a little bit of credit where credit's due. In the scheme of things, there was a movie called Field of Dreams with Kevin Costner. Does anyone remember that? He built something on a stupid dream. He was, excuse the French, mad bastard. There's several mad bastards in the room that I know of, and probably several that I don't. I have to pay tribute to what Peter's done down there. It takes a mad bastard for everyone else to follow. Stay standing. Stay standing, Roz. Roz is another mad bastard I know of. And my brother over here, Dan Neve, Rocket for the Homeless, build it and they will come. And this is what these three people, I don't know of anyone else in the room, but I'm going to pay tribute to these people today. Round of applause, please. Peter, that wasn't the question. Peter, just your thoughts on coordinating services to your particular outfit, and specifically, are the police part of it?
The police?
Are they aware of it?
They love us.
Do they do regular?
They think we're awesome.
So they're part of what you do?
They love us to death. Yeah,
and
absolutely.
How the other organisations also get involved?
Parole, they think we're awesome.
Thanks.
Probation and parole, they love us. The hospitals love us. Centrelink in particular, they're like, they just can't wait to refer people to us because there's no options. There's no other options. We're the only service of its kind in Australia. There's no other options for people who have got a Patricia with a crazy cavalier pet. She's not going to get temporary accommodation. No motel in the country is going to give her somewhere to stay for the night until she relinquishes that pet. But that pet is her safety net as well. It's her companion, right? You can't ask them just get rid of your pet. Like, people would rather not even eat. Their pet's got to come first. So, no, the services love what we do because what we do is making a difference. When 1 in 4 people are being transferred out of homelessness and into somewhere safe and secure, when we're able to partner with people, when the people who have got substance abuse aren't out there smashing on at the car park, but they're actually having a good night's sleep because now they're not so much hypervigilant. That's a good outcome. When a woman isn't being chased by the perpetrator and being abused at night, that's a nice solution to have. Okay, it's not the Seabull townhouse or 5-star hotel, but they're quite comfortable sleeping in their Holden Commodore, with a seat back and the locks and the doors locked because they're going to be safe. We've had some amazing services that have provided money to us so that we can keep cars registered, because an unregistered motor vehicle then becomes a car that's obviously you can't drive, and then you've got no house to live in either. So there's a whole lot of other things that are going on as well, which I obviously haven't got time to share right in much detail. But they love what we're doing because, number one, we're not imposing on their services. We're covering all the costs ourselves, which is great, good for them. And we're working together collaboratively. That's the key thing here. The key thing tonight is if you build it, they will come. But working together collaboratively, my encouragement for you to take home is that if you're inspired by anything that I've said or others have said tonight, find out amongst yourselves who are the key leaders. People want to follow a visionary and someone who's got some guts to basically make a difference. Get behind who those people are and then come together and make it happen. That's it. Al.